Hello, everybody. Welcome. Welcome. We're so glad that you could join us today. And I am just thrilled to have the amazing Susan Lynn with us today as our guest. I'm Terry
I'm
Lee.
thrilled to be here.
Excellent. I'm Terry Lee, Pure Visionary. If you're just stumbled onto this channel while you were waiting for your oil to get changed, you're going to have a good time. You'll be pleasantly surprised. And for all of the people who are subscribers, you know I love you from the bottom of my heart. You know I do. And this series is Walking in Two Worlds. Susan Lynn, she's going to blush, everybody. But I have to tell you, I love
Oh
this
no.
woman. Oh my God. She and Kim, Medium Kim, who will be on this series later in early May, were my teachers. And what do you say about someone who led you into the most amazing, joyous adventure of your whole lifetime? I mean, you're such an incredible teacher and
Oh,
you're so gifted and you're so loved because you are your genuine self. And I can't tell you, it's really a thrill to have you here.
thank you so much.
You're
Thank you so
welcome.
much. It's my pleasure to see you bloom.
I'm
I
I'm
mean,
blooming.
you're blooming, and I think that's the second time I've said that to you. But anyway, um, you know, we spirit waits for us to take that first step, and once we take that first step, they take three big steps towards us. And
Yes.
you took that big step. You trusted yourself. You did it. You're the one that did the work. You're the
Well,
one that did all the
I always say my guides pushed me into the pool, and that's
well, yeah,
exactly what happened.
yeah.
It definitely happened. But yeah, I'm just no regrets here. No regrets here. It's the most amazing thing. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. And I'm going to read this because I wanted to get across to everyone what our intention is. So, Walking in Two Worlds is an honest and open conversation between two psychic mediums about life experiences in their journey to becoming a psychic medium, as well as experiences after dedicating themselves as a professional psychic medium. Truly, we walk in two worlds. It is adventurous and wild at times, but always deeply meaningful and an honor to be a vessel for source energy, a journey for which we will be eternally grateful.
I love
That's
that.
what this show is about.
I love it.
And I also want to say, oh, and people are joining us, and hey, welcome. We're going to pause just for a second here, and of course, Sharon Sipe, you rock star. You know how
It's
much I
always good
love
to
you.
see you guys.
And we've got Michelle Mybell. Hi, Michelle Mybell.
All
And
right.
Juno and T Barb and all the cool kids are in the house. Great.
This is
Um,
awesome. I've never been at the cool kids table
this
before.
is a cool kids
This is
table.
where it's been all along. I didn't
No,
know.
you know what's interesting is the whole time we were at the cool kids table and we didn't know it,
There you
right?
go.
Over in the
That's the truth.
corner, us little strange, weird kids.
Us little psychic unicorns.
It's true. I want to explain that later on in the show, we will be taking questions from the live chat, and we're only going to be doing questions that are regarding psychic experiences or unexplained things that have happened to you. We will not be doing mediumship readings because we both do that on our own shows and other shows. So we're just going to tighten that question zone up a little bit so that we can get some really interesting questions. And last time, if you haven't seen the first Walking in Two Worlds with Sun Psychic Jean, the final question was such a great one about aliens, and I love that. So those questions are
Awesome.
all welcome today, and I'll do a reminder once again in the middle of the show about our questions. But feel free to put them in caps, and I'll be starring them as we go. All right, let's get started. This is so much fun. Let's see. I'm going to start with a quote across the bottom while I get my questions up here. So I think it's really interesting to consider the fact that we all are born psychic mediums. And that's what makes this journey that we found our way on, Susan, so interesting, doesn't it? So I'm going to ask you a few questions about your childhood. The first one is, what were some of the first experiences you had in this lifetime that you can look back on now and identify as part of your psychic and or mediumship gifts and abilities?
Well, um, for me, I didn't realize this until much later in my life. You know, you have sort of uncovered or recovered memories
Right.
during meditations or whatever.
Yes.
And I one of my earliest memories was had to do with aliens actually. Um
Oh, okay.
I
Good.
was staying at my aunt's house who my grandmother, her mother stayed there too. And I was staying there by myself. None of my siblings were with me, in other words. And I was staying in my grandmother's room. Okay. And
Okay.
there were two twin beds. And I remember waking up in the middle of the night and looking across the room, across the twin bed. There was her bed and there was a window. And I looked out the window and there was a ship. And I looked at the ship and I looked at my grandmother and she just looked at me like, you know, like this telepathic. She sat up in her bed for some reason and she sat up in her bed and just looked at me. And I looked at her and I looked out the window and I was like, what that? You know, but we didn't talk. You know, we just had this sort of understanding that she knew about this and that she knew that it was my role as well.
Right.
So, of course,
Wow.
I never talked to my grandmother about that. My grandmother was my dad was much older as a parent.
Okay.
His grandmother or his mother was much older as a parent. So, you
Hmm.
know, she was like in her 70s, maybe when I was 6
Okay.
or something.
Yeah.
So she was just way much older. And and she died when I was in college, you know, first year of college. But anyway, that was
Yeah.
one thing. The other thing was I saw spirits when I was younger. When I was a little girl, I would see
Okay.
energies and spirits in my room at night. Um, and I didn't know, they didn't look like anybody I knew. So I didn't know, you know, what some people see like their uncle or their grandmother. I didn't see any of that. I just saw energies and people that I didn't know who they were.
Okay. So can I ask you now, when you saw spirits and entities of some sort in your room, were they ethereal and you saw them with your eyes? Were they excuse me, were they like misty, or um it was aware you were aware right away that they weren't of this world, right?
Right.
Uh
And I saw them outside of my, you know, not in my third eye, not inside my head,
right.
whatever that is objectively. I saw it in my room. Um one was not the funnest thing. It was basically a blob of energy, but all I could really see very clearly were these eyes, red eyes. And that really frightened me as a child. Um and
Yeah.
the other ones were more like a transparent ghost
Mhm.
that were moving around to the point where when I would break, and I literally did break the lamp, but when I would break the lamp, I'd tell my dad it was the ghost. You know, the ghost did it because to me, they were here in the house too. It's like it's not just us; it's all these other people. And my dad
Could have
was like,
been.
"No, that ain't gonna fly. That's not gonna fly. You're
Could have
grounded,
been.
and the ghost. You know, whatever."
I
So
love it.
yeah,
Could have been that darn ghost, right?
I tried anyway.
That's great. Well, that's amazing that you had that many experiences in your youth. I had some, but they weren't defined, you know. And then I remember the first time I ever did actually, with my eyes, see an ethereal ghost. But that's pretty good.
When did you see it?
Sounds like it was a
When was
crowded
the first
house.
time?
I think I told this on the last show, but I'll tell it again. My second beloved husband, and we were in a camping area, and we explored in a place called Grovant in Wyoming, and it was the
Oh,
site of a
yeah.
mining town that had a major earthquake and large boulders. And I mean, these boulders were amazing; they were huge. Came down and covered the town, and so we were scrambling over the boulders, you know, just kind of looking and exploring and having a good time. And we just kind of sat down to take a break. And all of a sudden, there was this big guy in front of me dressed in like 1800 clothes with suspenders and canvas pants pulled all the way up. And he was really dirty. And he had a little round specs on. And he was saying things to me about a baby, and it scared the bejesus out of me. And I looked at my husband Dave, and I'm like, we got to get out of here. I don't feel good about this place. And he was so cool about it. He's like, okay, well, let's just go then.
He
And
didn't see it.
no, no, but he was right there in front of us. It was
Did
it
you
was
tell
wild.
him you saw it, or did you keep it to
I
yourself?
did much later. I
Huh.
because we had just started dating, and I had had weird experiences before, and I didn't want to really freak him out. So yeah, I waited for a while, and then I explained it to him, and he was just like, whoa, and kind of thought it was cool. Um, but I had to get over that part of where you tell yourself, no, I really saw it. No, you're imagining things, you're making it up. No, no, I really saw it. I'm pretty darn sure. We all go through that. So I was just in that progression of discovering those things. And that's a wild time, isn't it? Yeah.
It's a
But
wild time. So looking back on it, this gentleman appeared in front of you and he
mhm,
was facing you,
yes,
which means that he knew you were a medium.
he
He
did.
knew you could see him. And
Mhm.
then he asked you about a baby, right? That was what he was. Now, how did you know he asked you about a baby? Was it a thought? Did you hear it? You have clairaudience.
Their
Okay.
audience is my strongest one. And
Ah,
that's kind of the undeniable one. That's the thing that made me see, well, I must have seen it because
that's
I
the
heard it.
truth.
you know?
Yeah.
So that's kind of the way I felt about it. But I mean, now I realize, he experienced something traumatic, and he was still there. He was still there looking for a baby, sadly. I didn't know enough to communicate with him, but that was the experience. So I think our next question is kind of going to come from that. And that is, what were some of the things that fascinated or interested you as a child or a young person that made you curious about psychic abilities or ESP or magic?
Hmm. Good question.
Thank
I
you.
wonder how many of us were interested in magic, like magic tricks. Because I was. And then I was
Me too.
interested in astrology. I actually
Me
studied
too.
astrology at a very young age, and I still don't understand it. I swear to God. But but I started reading books about it. And I was the kid that I literally would leave school and go to the bookstore and go to the occult.
Right.
Remember when there was an occult book section, and just sit on the floor and read them? But that, what happens is we kind of dive into it, and then we get a boyfriend, or we go to school, or we
Yeah.
go to college, or
Right.
something kind of pushes you out of it. Because that's what happened to me. Like, I don't know, my life took another turn, and I think I decided I needed to get serious about going to college. It's like, I need to get out of this book shop and you know, do something different. But yeah,
Yeah.
that would be it. How
Cool.
about for you?
As a young girl in Idaho, our library didn't have a very big psychic section.
Hmm. Hmm.
But I do remember in the 80s there began to be more and more books written, and I would just gobble those up. And I had a big fascination with Edgar Casey, and when Charity of the Gods came out, I was wild over that. I was much older then, but still, those kind of things always got my attention. And astrology, yes. In fact, I just got a book in the mail today. I can't wait. It's Astrology for Beginners by David Pond, my favorite astrologer. I hope to have him on this show someday. He's
Wow. All
amazing.
right.
And yeah, I'm going to give that a try. So I'll let you know. Maybe that'll be the book for you. You never know.
I just don't know. I don't know why. It frustrated me for many years. You have your chart done, and I'm trying to understand the houses and I'm fascinated by it, but I just
Me
can't
too.
make it work.
It's amazing, but it is definitely right on. And I love watching all of the astrologers on YouTube. There's so many talented ones. And so Adam being one of them. And by the way, I want to just pause for a second if I may, because I kind of wanted to do this at the beginning and I forgot. Susan has a channel on Patreon. I'm telling you, it's the best. It's the best
Thank you so
value
much.
you'll ever get for your buck. I have just been enjoying it to pieces. And they did a show last night, Susan with Efefe or Lana of, is her channel called Truly Touched by Tarot or Touched by
Her
Tarot?
website is Truly Touched by Tarot, but her channel is Touched by Tarot.
Okay. And she is absolutely mind blowing. She does tarot. She also dives into astrology. I adore her. The two of you together blew my mind.
We had fun. We had a lot
Oh,
of fun.
man, it was amazing. So I just wanted to get that little plug in there before we get
Thank
too busy
you.
because it was, woo.
Oh my god. You know, it's
Two thumbs
great
up.
when you vibe, you know, when you find somebody you vibe with, you know?
Yeah.
Like we're vibing.
We're vibing.
We're
This is
vibing.
great. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling that energy. All right. Well, let's see. Let's see. So we're kind of talked about that. Did you get into like, were you into Star Trek or any sci-fi stuff, or was it mostly mystical?
Do you know what's so weird is honestly that confounds me a little bit. Now when I was reading, I was really into more what do you call that, fantasy almost,
Yes.
kind
Uh-huh.
of not sci-fi. So I watched just a very little bit of Star Trek.
Okay.
But what's weird is my guides are always saying watch the Matrix. They're always telling me to watch those shows, that those shows are so dead on.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you something interesting too about me is I got a Akashic Records reading not too long ago. And I've only been on this in the solar system, not the planet, the solar system, 4 lifetimes.
Wow.
So you would think that I would be drawn to sci-fi. I mean, maybe that's why I wasn't, because maybe because of me it's not real. Like I knew the real thing and it's not real, but I don't know. It's just interesting to me that I was never drawn to it because
Yeah.
even my guides talk about it. I will say this though, if you guys have ever had like a past life reading, or even if you have past life experiences, they're very triggering. Weird
Yeah.
things trigger me, like robots attacking triggers me. Like I must have experienced that somewhere because I am deadly afraid of those drones and robots attacking, and certain things just trigger me that I have no reason why I should be triggered by that, right? So maybe
Yeah.
that's why I don't watch sci-fi. Some of that stuff I've lived and I'm like, no, thank you. No, thank you. I need a break. I don't
Yeah.
know.
I was a big fan of sci-fi, and I think it's because it was, I was raised in a Christian religion, how it's a house and background. So, this sci-fi allowed me to stretch my mind and to use my imagination. And I remember running down the street to go to my girlfriend's house to watch Star Trek. And I love Star Trek because of there were the lessons. I mean, and if you haven't watched it, you don't know, but they traveled to all these different planets, and some people had blue on one side and white on the other, and they fought with the people who had white side on one side, blue on the other. I mean, just lessons about that also helped us with ideas about humanity and sociology and all that good stuff. Plus, Captain Kirk, he was cool.
He was cool. No, he was cool. You know, I love that. For some reason I went into the fantasy world, you know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
read a lot. I was a reader, so
Mm-hmm. Awesome. I love that. Okay. Well, so how was it that you came to know that becoming a professional psychic medium was your desire and your destiny?
oh boy. Um well, you guys know me. I mean, can you square the cantankerous side of me? I mean, do you do you guys get that? Because I'm so cantankerous, you know, and I think people don't see that, but with my guides, it's like, whoo. So what had happened was, um, I was a professional photographer, and I blocked this. You know, like Terry said earlier, some of these experiences you just don't even know what to do with them. I mean, there's no one to talk to,
Right.
especially back in the day. And the best thing to do a lot of times is just to repress it or to ignore it. Or if you're a medium, you need to block it because dead people follow you around and they want things from you, like the guy that showed up to you wanted to ask about the baby. I mean, they want things. They're coming to you for a reason. So I blocked it. So what happened was, basically I went through a really, spirit started to bring this stuff to the forefront of my consciousness a little bit more. I saw ghost. It was cool because it was cool to see ghost, and all my friends thought it was cool. And so I was the ghost person, whatever. And it wasn't a problem. And I sort of became known for it in a weird way, but I was a professional photographer. So I had a whole nother career.
Right.
And, I went through a really, really, really bad breakup, which caused me to really do a lot of self-work. So I did a lot of raising my own vibration. I learned how to love myself. I learned how to talk to myself in a positive manner. I learned that I needed to be my own best cheerleader, that there wasn't a whole line of cheerleaders lined up to cheerlead me. I needed to do it.
Yeah.
And when I started doing that, that's when my spirit guide started talking back to me. So when I got to a higher vibration than and I'm clairaudient like you. So and how do I know they were talking back to me? Well, because they answered my question. So I would say, gosh, Susan, instead of saying, Susan, you really jacked that up. What were you thinking? Golly. I said, Susan, that was an experience, wasn't it? I think we've learned a lot in this experience. And I think that we've learned enough that we probably won't repeat it again. But boy, was it. So you can see how I'm self-parenting. And then my guides just popped in with something like, you've learned your lesson. Like, that's not like, it was just a different timbre of quality of the voice. So then when I started talking to them more, they started telling me, Susan, your photography, this gig, it's over. And I'm like, no, it's not over. You're kidding. And literally I went from like having 3 employees to having 1 employee, to having a studio, to having no studio, to moving the studio into my house, to having, no employees, me. And I downsized until finally they convinced me. And yeah,
So
they
glad about
knew
that.
what they needed to do. They knew what they needed to do that. And so I finally mentioned it they introduced me to a friend. I mean, it's a bigger, longer story, but they introduced me to a friend that I was supposed to have met 3 years ago at a psychic class, but I didn't take that class. And then at a holiday party, she was at this holiday party, and so were all the people in that first psychic class, every last one of them.
Don't you love
Including
it?
the teacher. And she says, Susan, remember when I said you were supposed to take the class in the fall instead of the winter? These are the people you were supposed to meet. Here they were 3 years later. Spirit arranged all these people to meet in a house 45 minutes away from where anybody lived. It's just amazing. You can't make this stuff up, right? So, and that was the beginning. Then they just really supported me, harassed me, kicked me in the butt, everything until I did it.
Wow, that's great. It's interesting, the experiences in our lives. I always really have a high respect for people who kind of were born knowing what they were supposed to do, and those people, And since then, spirits really talked to me about that and said, your personal experience gives you that empathy and that ability to see other people's lives and to walk a mile in their shoes sometimes. And that's kind of, what spurred me on. I kind of knew I had this stuff going, and I had to kind of break away from the organized stuff and get more in where I could spread my wings. And then I became the single mother of 3 kids. So that's when it all kind of just blew up, and I started grabbing books and reading. And as you said, you're self-teaching, you're steadying your ship, you're finding your way, and I didn't think it was going to be this, but I stabilized and went forward, and eventually found my fantastic second husband, who was an amazing father as well. And life was good. And it wasn't, a couple things just happened. Like you said, you get those nudges. The guides just kept nudging me and like, because I started listening to people in 2020 and just loving all the psychic mediums on YouTube. So I decided to, kind of think about that and entertain it and think, I used to be always fascinated and follow all these psychic mediums. And I thought, maybe you kind of want to do that, but I don't know, you don't think you can do it. And then I had an appointment face to face with David Pond, an amazing astrologer who I highly respected. And he told me, he goes, yeah, you've got some things in here that indicate that you'd be very good at it. And that spurred me to sign up for your class. And I was terrified because after I signed up for it, I realized it was a mediumship class.
Oh my God. That's the first one you took was the mediumship.
You're going to be talking to people on the other side. So what a journey.
Spirit set you up.
Set me up good. Like I said, they shoved me into the pool. They totally shoved me into the pool. So let's roll along here. Let's see. I heard this on your talk today, so I'm going to bring this up, and then we'll pause and kind of give the people who've joined us an idea of what's going to go on later with questions. Can you explain how you, in particular, as we all do in our unique ways, as the creator intended, right? How you, in particular, feel the essence of a soul when you're doing a mediumship reading?
Okay. So when you say feel the essence, you mean communicate with them or connect with them?
Yeah, it's sort of like, I guess what I'll explain to you what I'm experiencing, and then you can put it in your place.
Okay.
But we'll go through and do live readings sometimes with Sun Psychic Jean and Terry Suzuki, and we'll get a chance to just read on the moment for someone. And the feeling you get when that soul comes through and gives you their vibration. So you can tell, like, right away, it's a loving person, or it's kind of a shy person, or you start to feel the essence of who they are. And I don't know, what's your experience with that?
Yes, that's beautiful. You're absolutely right. It's hard to explain now that I see how you're trying to explain it. I can see that it is hard. So here's the thing. We all have the clairs, the psychic senses. Clairsentience is probably what you're talking about. I feel this person is happy-go-lucky, right? I feel this person is serious. But also you just know. I don't know how, but I just know that this guy's really smart. That's claircognizance, right? So I just have this knowing. I hear, I have clair. So I hear them tell me that they were in Mensa. Clairvoyance, I see them, right? So, but the interesting thing is that psychics can do all those things. Those are psychic qualities. Anybody that's psychic can see, can hear, can feel, can know. The main difference between a psychic and a medium is the medium communicates back and forth. So whereas the psychic can see all that information and know that information, a medium actually does the communication. Right. So for me, I think it's interesting that, like you mentioned earlier, your clairaudience is one of your, your most powerful clairs. And it is mine too. But sometimes when I'm talking to a person on the other side, they'll come to me with a feeling, and then it'll switch to clairvoyance, and then it'll switch to clairaudience. So it kind of jumps around. But I will say that when I'm doing clairaudience, when I'm listening, I'm not always seeing. It's almost like when I'm listening, I'm not seeing them for some reason. It's really interesting. But so, yes, we feel their energy. I think one of the most amazing things is when I feel the love. Yeah. When they bring, when they bring that love into my heart, that is potent. And I often say, I wish I could make you feel what I'm feeling, because I can just feel the love from this person. And I want to tell you too, that just because that person on the other side doesn't make me feel the love, it might be that they're communicating a different way. That person might just be an empath, and they may be able to just send that energy into me.
Yeah.
Whereas someone else may love you just as much, but they're more cerebral. So
Yes.
maybe I don't feel the love, but I know this person. I know this person loves you, right?
Yeah.
So does that make sense to your question?
Perfect sense. And yeah, and you've just brought that thought to me too. Like as you said, some will come through first with that love and that feeling. For one, I get a color like pink. If I see bright pink right away, I got somebody with some big love coming through. But then others I've done readings for someone who has a story to tell, and they'll show me this or they'll show me that, or I'll
Right.
see this and it'll click, or they'll give me, and I don't know how they do this because I kind of think the guides help us with that too. But you'll have little signals, like I'll get lyrics from songs or I'll hear a song, and then that helps me take the story further. But absolutely, that love is absolutely the most powerful thing. And whew, I love it. That's what gives you chills too. Now, do you get chills when you feel like you're resonating with the right
I
thing? You're
got
on your,
chills when I was talking about the love thing. Like I get them like right here. Like I'm like, oh, I got the chills. And Cindy
just
had a
love it.
question and it went by, but Cindy said, do you actually hear words or see words? So clairaudience is an interesting thing. Clairvoyance, you see. I mean, it's pretty clear.
Yeah.
Clairsentience, you feel it. Pretty clear. Clairaudience can be, I'm literally could hear, like you hear your name called and you go looking and there's nobody there. That's clairaudience. But you can also hear it inside your head. And you can hear it in your voice or another voice, and that's also clairaudience. So clairaudience is a little bit different in the sense that it can present in a little bit different ways. Now, if you see the words, I think Medium Kim has a better handle on this, but I think if you see the words, that sometimes people consider that clairaudience, but I would consider it probably clairvoyance. But because they're words, I think sometimes they say that that's clairaudience. But that's an interesting thing. If you ever get hung up and you can't get, like when they tell me their name and I'm like, I'm trying to sound out the syllable. It sounds like, what? You can have them write it down. If you're very clairvoyant, you can say, write the name, and they'll write it out or type it out for you. So that's another way to do that.
That is cool. I've never experienced anything like that. I've always just heard it. And in fact, I had an incident once where sometimes you're reading with other people or they're talking, the sitter is talking, and you'll get something, I'll hear it. And this particular one was a young man named Kevin, and he kept saying, tell her my name's Kevin, tell her Kevin. And I'm like, just a minute. I'm doing this over here, and it's Kevin. And she's kind of wrapping it up and backing off, and all of a sudden he's screaming in my, Kevin, you have to say Kevin. And this was a live reading on YouTube, and
oh my god.
So right at the end, when she was finishing up, I go, oh, by the way, his name is Kevin. It is.
And his name was Kevin? Because
Kevin.
Sometimes they do that to me, and I'm like, his name is Kevin. They're like, we don't know any Kevins. Like, what are you screaming at me for?
Well, there's a lead into another question. And I heard you talk about it today. You called it, what did you call it? I call it hijacking, when you're doing a reading and somebody else comes in.
Hijacking, yes.
I think called it
piggybacking.
Yes, that's what it was. And yeah, actually, I think when I read for you the first time, I was so starstruck. Oh my God, I remember just being so nervous. Oh my God. Are you serious? Reading for the teacher?
I am serious. For real, I'm serious.
But I remember a song came through. We won't make this personal. A song came through, heard that clearly. That was the message. And somebody was coming through with this message. And then all of a sudden, the vibe changed immediately. And this other person came in. I didn't realize that till later after I thought about it. I thought, oh, you got hijacked. I mean, you had an idea of who that other person was and how they related to you, but I didn't really get it. I thought that was not the song. They didn't send the song. That was somebody else that was coming in nice and sweet. And that other person just kind of barged right in.
So does that make sense to you guys? What she's saying is, so when we open the veil and we call in someone to speak to, or that person comes in the middle of your reading, another person will sneak in and start giving you information. And then your sitter starts saying, no, no. But yet you had been completely like right on the energy. And then all of a sudden your reading is going sideways.
Yeah.
That is what she calls hijacking, what I call piggybacking, but same thing. So
Same thing.
somebody else just snuck in and started. And you want to know the truth is, when you're doing group readings, somebody else across the room's person will sneak in.
Yeah.
So that's when you say, okay, this isn't resonating anymore. And somebody else raises their hand, it resonates with me. And then you go over there because, Ed done jumped in on Sally and push Sally out of the way.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
That's why we ask you for validation. That's so important, because if you don't validate it, then we go off in a different direction. And I kind of feel like I just push them away. Like, okay, maybe we'll talk to you later, but we're going over here. So yeah, that's interesting. All right. Well, I'm going to pause in the middle here because this is so exciting. I'm just going off like crazy. We are going to be taking questions, and I see a few. I've got I need some more though. If you guys can put them in capitals, I can see them a lot faster. And what we're going to take questions on is anything unexplained events that have happened in your life. How can you use psychic mediumship skills in your life, even if you don't want to be a professional psychic medium? How can those skills come in handy? How can you better communicate with your guides on a regular basis? And questions like that. So we'll be doing mediumship readings on our other channels and with other people at other times. And of course, you can always book a reading with us. But we're going to stick to those questions today to kind of keep the theme of the show. So we're moving on. This is great. I'm going to pick one more. Let's see. I've got a list, and I just kind of, this is the one. Actually, when they gave me this question, I thought, I got to get Susan Lynn for this one. Tell me about your guide's sense of humor. What is it like?
Oh my God.
And this is why walking in two worlds kind of came to my mind, because I walk around talking to my guides all the time. And if there's nobody there to call me crazy, I do it out loud. And tell me some of the adventures you've had with communicating with your guides, Susan.
Oh my God. Well, it's interesting. I had a friend about 2 years ago when this kind of really kicked into high gear. I was living with a friend, and I talk out loud anyway. And and she was constantly in the other room going, them or me, screaming, you're talking to me. No. Okay.
I love it.
So I just have these running conversations with them, so I feel like they use a sense of humor with me. Like, this is another thing that she would say. She would say, I don't think those are your guides, because I don't think your guides would, say that stuff. I'm like, well, they do, because laughter raises your vibration. And I think they think that I'm too serious. I mean, this might be hard to imagine, but I really am a Virgo and a Capricorn. And I can be very focused and very serious and very, let's get this job done kind of energy. And so, if they can make me laugh, number one, I'm going to get the message a lot better. They're going to it's like medicine, they're going to slip that medicine right on in. And if I'm laughing, my vibration is higher.
Right.
So that's why I think that they do that with me. With other people, they may communicate in a different way. I don't know why this is coming to my mind right now. It came to my mind a few days ago. I did a video a long time ago where the guides showed me this this basket, and they were talking to me in my head, and I was seeing the picture in my head, and I was doing something inane. So this is a good point too. If you're washing a car if you're editing photos, because I was a photographer for a while, if you're doing a hobby, gardening, exercises, that's just rote. It's inane. You're just not thinking. Your mind is
Right.
able to just wander, and that's when they come in. That's when those
Mhm.
messages really come in. So when I opened up the basket, I thought I saw eggs, because again, this is another good message. You, as a psychic or a medium, you're just trying to make sense of something. Like if a spirit tells you something from the other side, you're trying to make sense of it. That's not a good thing to do. You should just go with the data. But I thought they were eggs. They were brass balls. And
Oh.
and they told me that I needed to grow a pair of brass balls because they wanted me to do the YouTube channel. And I was like, "Golly." And I laughed and laughed and laughed about that. Like,
Yeah.
grow a pair, lady. I'm like, that is crude, I mean, who, and then if only I knew that I could call 1-800 Spirit Guide complaint department for number one, I would have done it back then and lodged a complaint. But anyway, they just, and the other one that comes to mind is, I did a short video about this. I was in the kitchen. Now I've given them permission. This is an important thing. I gave my guides permission to help me with my diet, which means from my heart, not from my head. This wasn't just a mental exercise. From my heart, I said, look, I need help. Help me out. So I'm making lunch and I got something out and they're like, you're not going to like that. I'm like, I mean, do you guys really want to live with somebody in your head that tells you stuff like that? Do you really want to live like that? Do you want to have your mama or your daddy in your head? I'm like, okay, fine. So I don't remember. One time I made it just to test. I hated it. But anyway, meanwhile, it's pouring rain outside. No big deal, except for that I left my car window open and they didn't tell me about the pouring rain. Instead, they want to talk to me about what I'm having for lunch. And I'm like, couldn't y'all tell me about the car? And I did a short video because there was water in the door thing. I'm like, what's up with these guides? You know what I mean?
Thanks for nothing, right?
Yeah, I mean, hello. But I don't,
Oh.
so anyway, I have complaints. I really do.
Mine are
Anyway,
just my guides will just they rank me, they tease me, they know my soft spots. They think 420 is just a hoot. People have 1111. No, mine's always 420. Like
that's awesome.
very funny.
Well, today was 420,
I know. And don't you think I laughed when I scheduled it and looked at it and went, "Oh my God, it's 420. You guys."
Oh my God.
Just crazy stuff, tease me about oh, my hair or my silliness or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
Yep.
and like you say, you get a little weirded out by it, but at the same time, it's like there's that good buddy feeling about it,
Yeah.
because they
Yeah.
don't let you take yourself too seriously. And yeah. And then
That's
there's
right.
the times when you're getting a serious download and then it's a different story. It's all business, right?
It's all
Got to get this
business. And
message out.
you learn, don't you? You
Yes.
learn to follow those instructions. Like, I
Mhm.
can tell you that I learned the hard way. And now when they get that certain timbre of energy or
Yeah.
tone to the message, like you're saying, it's a more serious message. And
Yeah.
even though I can't understand how in the world whatever they want me to do would be important, I do it. I try
Mhm.
really hard to just
You
follow
do.
it. And I don't ask questions because I have learned the hard way with that.
Well,
I
and thank you, Susan, because we've all learned from you. So
have.
you
Yeah.
forged the way.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's see. I'm going to oh gosh, no, we're going to have to dive into questions right now. So I'm going to go to the start questions. I've got quite a few here. And, um, okay, this is a good one from Juno. Is there a correlation between being psychic, intuitive, and connecting with ETs?
What do you think, Terry?
Yes. I I've just always known. It's like I've known. It's never been a question to me. And not only that, but I can feel, and I honestly feel we're going to all feel and know here in the next few years. It's being made, uh, I've been made aware of the fact that yes, it's coming. So yeah,
It is
definitely.
coming, but I know some psychics that don't vibe with ETs for whatever reason. So I wouldn't say that every psychic
That's true.
understands or likes or even wants to talk about it. But I totally agree with Terry that it's coming, and there's a reason why all of us are being called on the field right now. So they
Yeah.
often show it to me in a sports analogy, like we sat on the bench. We said, we'll come into this life, we'll have these abilities, but we're going to sit it out until we're needed. Because I think, Terry, that if all of us watching this, and I don't think any of us watching this video have been doing this work for 20 years.
Oh,
I think that had I been doing this work for 20 years by now, I'd be like ready to retire. So I feel like we're the next string, we're the next team to take the field, even though we might be a bit older. It's our time. We
it is.
agreed to sit it out and then enter at this time. Some of that has to do with the ET activity that's going to be coming in the next few years.
I believe that's absolutely true. You're right on the money with that. Absolutely. And that's why I constantly thank the creator. I'm like, thanks for letting me come at this particular time. It's wild. It's incredible. And we're going to be out there and be a part of it. It's exciting. Very exciting. Okay. What's okay? Let's do this one. I hadn't had a chance. A big question. I didn't get a chance to read it. So let's get it up there. Cindy P says, I saw a floating glowing orb up in the mountains. What was that? Perfect question.
Perfect question. And I saw an orb for the first time that was floating too a few years ago. And I remember standing there like my feet are glued to the ground, and I pointed to it and I said, "Do you see those orbs?" And my friend was like, "Yeah," or "Okay," and then walked away. And I couldn't even move, right? So it's interesting. I just don't think some people are in resonance with it. But what was it? It was I mean, they're calling it an energy. They don't like the word ETs. I'm sure we're going to come up with a different word for them, whether it's an energy being or something.
Yeah.
But so they're telling me that it was an energy being. We could call it an ET. It certainly wasn't from here. It wasn't a ghost. It was, an ET, I guess, if for lack of a better description. What do you get, Terry?
It's interesting. I got kind of a Celtic feeling about that,
Like a past
like a
life?
no, like a energy in the woods, like I don't know. I can't quite
Oh,
get the word for it right now. You know what I mean? And a woodland spirit, something like that. Yeah,
which
that's
which would be an interdimensional
could
being,
be.
or
Yeah,
do
it
you
could
feel like
very be
it's more?
interdimensional. I feel like it could be interdimensional. I really do, because I think a lot of the stuff that we've heard from folklore, I love that. Folklore. Oh, I'm going to use that one on somebody. From folklore, actually, we're interdimensional beings. A lot of the legends and stories, and that's just kind of the feeling I got. Something like that.
I love that. I love that. So you were able to tap into the energy of it, and it had this sort of um
Earth, earthy. I
earth
don't know.
elemental, like element.
Yes.
I want to say elemental, but
Yes.
yeah, earth, like an earth goddess or an earth, some kind of earth thing. Yeah, I could go with that. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. And she says the orb was huge, not small, and I was awake, looking out the deck at 2 a.m. Wow. Lucky
Well, you
you.
were meant to see it, Cindy. And it makes sense
Absolutely.
that Terry picked up that it was an earth energy because Cindy is very earth oriented.
Oh, okay.
So that just makes perfect sense.
Cool. All right. I love this one. Serenity Springs wants to know her alarm clock changes colors.
Yeah, that's them.
Oh,
That's either your guides or your
interesting.
dad. Do you have a dad on the other side? Are you picking up anything, Terry?
Not quite yet. Go ahead. Um,
If your dad isn't doing, you're here? Let me know if your dad is on the other side, Serenity Springs,
yeah.
or it could be a father figure. someone who was like a father to you in some way, not necessarily parental, but in some way. I don't know. That's what I'm picking up. But anyway, I don't. Oh, your dad sets off the smoke alarms. Well, okay. Well, so your dad is very talented, dear. I think
I
this is your
definitely feel
dad
amazed.
doing
That's for
this.
sure.
Um, he must work really hard at that. Let me tell you. That's just not typically your spirit guides. I mean, your spirit guides don't work quite that hard.
They don't have to.
I mean,
That's the
they
thing.
don't need to. Yeah, they don't
So,
need to. Actually, they're and they love guiding us on the subconscious level. Anyway, I think that
yeah.
is your dad, dear. So you
Okay.
can just say, "Hi, Dad. Cut it out."
Yeah. I had interesting experience the other night on the last episode of the show with Sun Psychic Jean. My question to her was, "Who pulled my hair?" I don't know if you get these or not. Sometimes, Susan, when I get downloads, I get a little electrical. It feels like somebody's putting a little electrical things in the top of my head. It wasn't that. I was sound asleep and I wasn't getting any downloads. And my hair was pulled so hard that I woke up and I reached over and my husband was way on the other side of my bed. And so I had to know. But she said it was a relative. And she didn't like that because she says that's breaking the rules. But I think it was probably my sister. 'Cause she
That's
loved
a big
I
yank
teased her.
to wake you up is a big yank. That's a pretty good yank on your
It
hair.
was. Yeah, and it really startled me, and I tried and tried to get psychically who it was, and I didn't, and I think it was my sister having a really good tease, and that's why she didn't reveal herself. So, yeah, those kind of things happen. All right, Valerie. Hi, Valerie. I had a dream of 3 men. I had a dream of 3 men who escorted a man out, the door that was hurting me. Who were they? Looked like angels. Trying to get the gist of this question here. So 3
Oh,
men.
okay. The 3 men escorted a man out of the door who was hurting her.
Oh, okay.
So
All
let
right.
us know if that's it. 3 men
Yes,
came
please.
and escorted a man out of the door who was hurting you, and they look like angels.
Okay.
Valerie, I honestly think that was on the astral plane. I think you were astral traveling at night. Yes, we got it right. Okay. I think you were astral traveling at night, and these 3 men are not connected to you directly. In other words, they're not your spirit guides,
No,
but they're sort of like cosmic police.
I believe so. I don't get the angel vibe from them.
I
I don't
don't.
I don't get that feeling.
Yeah. Now they
And
can portray themselves as angels because listen, it's inner. It's like Cindy saw. It's an orb of energy. They don't always need to take shape, but sometimes they do take shape so that we're not scared or we can make sense of what's happening. Um, that guy was not supposed to be there. Terry, you might be interested in timelines. Are you interested in timelines and time jumpers?
oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I was just hearing that what I was hearing from them or hearing is that they were told to protect you. Uh, they were told to step in. They were directed to do
They were
that.
directed.
Yeah, yeah. Ooh, I now got chills on that one. Ooh, wow,
But
that's
why? I mean, don't you ever want to know like why? Like maybe I'm a perpetual 3-year-old with my guides, but why? But why?
why, yeah,
um I just feel like
the
you
story.
were out in the astral plane and you sort of wandered into the wrong street or the wrong alley or the wrong place at the wrong time. And I think that you know, you weren't supposed to be there. So they
Mhm.
protected you.
That's great, and that is a always good to know the why. Thank you, Susan.
If we
Okay,
can.
all right, let's go see what I can dig up. Oh, this is interesting from, Kelly, Dozen Cats. Do you
Hey
have
Kelly.
any advice if you're physically attacked?
Oh, do you mean psychically? I think she means psychically
Oh,
attacked.
okay, psychically. Yeah.
That's a
Ah,
that's a really tough one. Okay, so it actually is really something that I've
psych
experienced a bit too much of in the last couple of years. Um okay, if the psychic attack is from a person, it's different than if the psychic attack is from you could be psychically attacked from somebody that you incarnated with 5 lifetimes ago, and they just got a beef with you, and they're going to try to jack up your energy wherever you go. You could have a psychic attack from someone that you know in this physical plane, as in another human that has a beef with you and wants to send you um, some harmful energy. You could have a psychic attack from an energy like an ET type energy for whatever reason. So there's different ways that this can happen to you. And I
yes.
don't talk about it too much because people are always like, "You scare me. It's scary." And the thing is, this guys, the veil between the worlds is thinning. Um, that is a given. So whatever used to be kept on the other side of that veil is now able to come over much easier. Okay, so we're going to have more interactions and easier interactions with grandma who crossed over, with your dog that crossed over, but also with these other types of energies that might be over there. So how you deal with each of them is a little bit different. But first of all, the in my opinion, the number one thing that I do is I call Archangel Michael. Archangel Michael is the archangel that has the weapon. He has a sword, and he is the archangel person, soldier that's in charge of protecting light workers. So that's the first thing I do. Second thing is if your vibration is really high, it's sort of like they miss you. It's sort of like they can't stick. They just kind of slide off of you. So if your mind is in a space where you don't believe you could ever be psychically attacked, where you believe that you're the luckiest person in the universe, we all know those people. I know somebody like that. Nothing bad ever happens to them. Never. Because she believes nothing bad is ever going to, she just truly believes it. It's the makeup of her DNA. If you're not like that, then you can just raise your vibration, fill your house, feel your energy, your own energy with love. Send love out, surround yourself with love. And then also look into your own shadow side. If you're being attacked, I'm not blaming the victim or anything like that, but I'm telling you that there's something in your shadow energy that sort of allows this attack to sort of land its mark a little bit more. And it could just be
Yeah.
that you're blind to it. It just could be that that it's a blind spot and you're not seeing it. So therefore you're not dealing with it. A lot of people that are psychic, but don't think they're psychic, or mediums and don't think they're mediums, are targets, because your light shines and all those other entities see that light. And they'll come in, ghosts will come in, entities will come in and use your energy. But you don't think you're psychic, you don't think you're a medium, so you never even notice it. You never even look. Or if you're a psychic and a medium and you're not in the habit of looking at your shadow side, or really doing a self-diagnosis, an energy scan every day, then you
Mhm.
can miss it.
Mm.
What else would you like to add, Terry?
Excellent.
Sorry,
Well,
I get very
now
verbose.
let's get into the dark side. But I used to have frequent dreams. Frequent dreams was when I was fighting some entity. And it's interesting, I'd always wake up because in my dream, I'd be like, stand back, slow motion kind of stuff, and pushing things out at them and stuff. And then I'd wake up and realize I think I was really talking in my sleep because I would wake myself up. Um, those are things we're dealing with. We don't always have to know exactly what's happening, but the important thing to know is who you really are. And as Susan said, you are lit. You are a light being. I love to say I'm lit. That's great. And you're a light being.
420.
You are a force of energy from the source that creates universes. Okay? No one can mess with you except you. So that knowledge is your power, that energy that you can surround yourself with. What's the way of kocha, the eighth chakra that you can just do this. Oh man, I show my flabby arm. Um, you can just do this and surround yourself in this powerful vibration, and nothing, literally nothing can mess with you. Also, you can tell them to get out. And I heard Susan do this once, say this once, and I've learned so much from you. But I would like get a weird vibe or a ominous feeling, and I would sage, and maybe if it didn't feel like it, get a pan and bang on it, make some noise. Get one of those bowls that has the cool vibration, and know that what you're doing is working. Know that it works because you have to have that faith in yourself. This is essential if you're going to be a person that deals with spiritual things. And I think if you've listened to my shows or heard me talk, I had a neighbor that was extremely disturbed. And Ho'oponopono. I always wonder if I'm saying that right. That was powerful. And I'll tell you what occurred to me, Susan. And thank you so much for giving me that. You have no idea. We were really dealing with someone who slashed our tires. We were quite frightened. Yeah. So I started doing that prayer, and I just started doing it out of faith that it was going to help. It was going to work. But one night, what occurred to me is what happens with that prayer. I figured it out. I'm like, why am I saying I'm sorry, right? I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Is it I love you and thank
I
you, or
love you.
thank you, I love you? I love you, thank you, right? And it occurred to me that this person and so many people like this are damaged. They're damaged souls. And there were people who played a part in that damage, who hurt them and who caused them to have the kind of emotions that they're having. And we were stepping in. When you say, I love you, please forgive me, you're stepping in the place of that soul, and you're giving the blessing to that disturbed person, which can then perhaps set them free for healing. And when I figured that out, I was like, yeah. And it wasn't long after that, this person was living with his mother, and he's gone now. I don't know where. Disneyland, I hope. He won the lottery and bought a new house. But hallelujah, it worked. And that's the essence, is that idea that we are empowered. We're not victims, and we are not weak. And every time you start to feel that, just, pinch yourself and say, I know who I really am. I know who I really am. This is just a body that I inhabit. So anyway, don't get me started. Don't get
No,
me
I'm
started.
glad you said that. I couldn't have said it any better. That was
Oh,
amazing.
thank you.
The Ho'oponopono, if you guys just type in HO and O and PONO prayer. And then I want to just say that you are dead on the money with the sovereignty. And I think T Barb also said sovereignty. We don't know how powerful we are, and they are banking on
Yeah,
us not knowing it.
right.
So one thing that I do say is, I know that entity or whoever you are, that if I tell you that you have to go, you have to go, because they're counting on us not knowing that we're powerful. So
Yeah.
when I tell them, I know that when I tell you you got to go, you got to go. So go, right?
Yeah, that's it. Exactly. And that whole knowing who you really are, that makes your vibration so much higher that you're going to experience things that you never dreamed of in your life. You'll feel things better. You'll begin to use your psychic abilities and perhaps your mediumship abilities. But that level of knowing who you are is powerful stuff. Wow, that was a great one to kind of finalize things. You think? Do you want to take another one, Susan? Or
Sure.
oh wow, she's fired up. I love it. Let's see what I uh let's see. Oh, well, here's someone asking about your dog, but and that is not totally in line with our questions, but I think that we can work this into that. Right, Susan? Can we do
Yeah,
that?
we sure can. We're
Okay.
flexible.
So Ellen says if you can tune into my dog's energy, Buddy, he is alive but elderly, and ask him to please stop pacing. I've tried to get through, but not very successfully. I love him very much. Or
Hmm.
anyone in the chat.
Yeah, let's do a group reading here.
Yeah, that's fine.
So he's pacing, does that feel like anxiety or does that feel like a medical issue? You know? I'm almost feeling like a medical issue. Have you I don't know how you would even test for this, but I feel like he might have a bladder infection. I feel
Mm,
like you might have something going
mhm.
on in that area,
That's
bladder,
a
something to do with bladder. So, like with an infection, you feel like you have to go all the time, but you don't, but you're not going. Um,
and I think that motion of pacing eases the pain
alleviates it.
somewhat.
It alleviates it. It
Yeah,
at least
yeah.
makes him feel like he's doing something. And I
Mhm.
don't know how I actually don't. You guys in the chat, do you guys get anything? Feels medical, Summer said. First thing when he hurts when he lays down. Yep. Okay.
Mhm,
I
mhm.
mean, I do think he has some arthritis, and that is definitely, and there's could be something with his paws. And I do think that he has anxiety, but
Yeah.
it's when I go into I go straight into his bladder area. Okay, you get what did you get, Terry? Did you get
I'm
that?
well, yeah, I got the bladder area valid. I've resonated with that. I could
Okay.
feel that, and I felt that walking somehow eases the pain, but I
Mhm.
also get confusion. Um, Lots
Uh-huh.
of times, with older dogs, I mean, they get confused, sort of like a younger dog might run up to you and look to you for comfort, but this dog feels a bit of confusion about this pain, like he's trying to get rid of it, he's trying to move, but it won't stop.
It
And I
won't
think
go
bladder
away.
infection is right on the money. I really do.
And men, I mean, I have this experience with my dad, but when older men have bladder infections, they also present with some
Oh,
sort of dementia symptoms.
right.
And as soon as you get them antibiotics for the bladder infection, that stops. So I don't know. Summer gets bladder or kidney. I don't know how you would get a dog tested for this. I think what I would do, Ellen,
Oh, yeah.
is go out with him and see how if he squat or if he lifts his leg to pee a lot, but he doesn't pee. Um, you may even try to get a urine sample in a Tupperware or
Yeah.
something. And even just the color of it might be an indication.
Dark yellow.
um,
you know if it's
your
really
vet says
dark.
it's more likely dementia. I mean, I get it. I had a dog that had dementia. I get that
I
symptom.
did
I
too.
get it. My dog walked around at night all the time. I'm telling you, I feel like it's a bladder thing. I mean, if it's not too expensive and you have the money and you can get a urine sample and it's relatively an easy thing to do, I would suggest you do it. Enough people in chat are getting medical.
Yeah.
We don't want him to be suffering unnecessarily when like
Oh,
some uh antibiotics might clear it up. Um oh,
yeah.
blood test. Okay. Yeah, couldn't remember how they do it. It's been a while since I've had an older dog.
Mhm.
Um People are getting dementia. I get it, but I can't back down off of the medical. I'm sorry. I wish I could.
I feel confusion, but I definitely feel the pain. There's pain there. There's pain there. And remember, you can go see another vet, perhaps, if this vet won't, entertain this idea with you. Go see another vet. Or you might even investigate someone who treats animals herbally, or in a different way, in a different way. But I would
Yeah.
seek it out because
Yeah.
There's something that's giving him
There's
pain.
something else there. It's not just confusion. I'm so sorry. He is a little fuzzy-headed. Does he have cataracts? Can you see a little blue, a little, it looks like where their eyes get a little bit milky or blue. Anyway,
D-Manos. Yeah. Actually, D-Manos worked for me. Find out if dogs can take D-Manos. That stuff is amazing.
what is it?
Yeah. It is like it's an herbal thing. It's like sugars. It's certain types of sugars that are in different plants, and they combine it, and it helps stick to the side of the bladder and helps it flow out with the urine.
Oh, wow. Fantastic.
Yeah. Good stuff. If you get bladder infections, D-Manos.
So he does have cataracts, or a cataract.
Okay.
I'm connected to him. I know the dementia thing. I totally had a dog that had dementia. But there's something else going on here too.
Yeah. Yeah. And we sure hope and send you blessings and hope that this gets solved soon. And thank you, Ellen. Sorry about
And
that.
he's a good boy.
Yeah. Darn it.
He's a good boy.
Oh, our fur babies are pretty important to us. And
Absolutely.
yeah. Okay. So let's see. I'm going to dive in here. I might have run out of questions. Let me get back into the chat here.
Well, actually, Deanne asked something about being a medium, but there might be some other questions somewhere.
Did I miss that? Where
it's pretty new, I think.
Okay. Let me get on here.
Deanne.
Now I'm going through all the dog comments. Sorry. Okay, here it is. Thank you, Susan.
I just happened to see it.
Yeah. Can anyone learn mediumship? Cha.
Well, okay. So there's two schools of thought on this. Okay. So some people think mediums are born. Some people think that everybody can be a psychic, but not everybody can be a medium. I'm starting to agree with that. I've talked to enough people in my readings where I've had them do readings for me as part of their kind of assessment of their psychic abilities. I don't think everybody can be a medium, but you have to understand a psychic can get so much information. I mean, it's 90% of a medium. You know what I mean? You can get so much information from the other side. The only difference is a medium communicates back and forth. The medium can ask a question and get an answer. That communication, two-way communication, is what makes the difference. What do you think, Terry?
Well, it's hard for me to say that. I mean, I felt like I was just anyone. But
girlfriend, you had experiences when you were a little kid.
I know.
That's not just anybody.
I have a hard time feeling special, but I am special.
I know. Me too. They had to prove it to me. Believe me.
I think you're right. I think that the mediumship part of it, when I took the classes, I was sort of like, wow, is this for me? And is this really going to happen for me? But when it hit, bam, it didn't stop. And it's the mediumship part that I'm driven to. And I think that might be a natural attraction, something that you would have in that direction. There are definitely people who are psychic. I know my mom, very, very religious person, but she would have dreams. She always had dreams, premonitions.
Okay.
That kind of stuff, So it's interesting, the different realms that it can find its way to. But yeah, I think that the mediumship is probably something that you'd have to have a special taste for.
I don't know. I mean, I would say that there's a lot more mediums than we think, though. Right?
Maybe.
So maybe we're not as special. We're not special. There's a lot more of us than anybody ever knew. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think we're a minority. Let me put it that way. I don't think we're a minority.
Yeah.
But she also is saying that she's an empath and she's claircognizant, but she doesn't think she's a medium. So let's ask Spirit if Deanne is a medium.
All right, Deanne.
If you come on here, you're going to be on the spot, girlfriend.
Okay, I'm getting it's a serious answer. I'm grabbing my Labradorite. This is when I
Oh,
dig
yeah.
in. I'm digging in deep for
Digging in.
you.
I'm gonna grab
Yeah,
mine too, although I wear mine when I do readings.
that's cool. I'm looking for a Labradorite ring. It's powerful stuff.
It
And
is.
Deanne, you are a very special person indeed. There's no doubt about that. I'm definitely getting a very deep psychic intuition for sure. And I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Deanne, but when you read, you feel things. Maybe you even hear things, but maybe it's not. I don't know. Like we were talking about the clairaudience, sometimes you actually hear it, but sometimes you hear it inside of you. I just feel like when you read that, that's part of your power in reading tarot. Okay, so I just heard that door hasn't been opened up to you.
Does
I
that
don't.
mean she can open
I
it,
was
but
just going to say, I don't think that means the door is locked or
she's
the door is
pushing instead
shut.
of pulling?
I
I
think
think she is.
I think it hasn't been opened up. But I think it's possible that it can.
I
I
think it's
really,
possible.
yeah, because there's some deep spiritual gifts that you have. There's no doubt about it. You can feel it. And
I
I
think
think you're
she's got a
attracted
little
to it
block.
too. I think you're attracted to mediumship. I do.
I think
But
it's open for you.
yeah. Hey, I can recommend a good teacher.
You too, girlfriend.
Oh gosh, what a journey. What a journey. I thank I thank the creator for it. Before we do anything like this, before I do readings and after, and it's just such an amazing life. It's walking in two worlds. So I guess we're getting close to an hour and a half now. So Susan, we're gonna give you a break because you're a busy lady. I want to thank everybody in the chat. Oh my gosh, the participation was really excellent, and I love seeing you guys share back and forth. And I'm trying to be split here, but it really is interesting. And once again, I gotta just give my sincere thanks and gratitude to this community, this loving, supportive community. How lucky are we? I don't want to say lucky. We're blessed, but we're lucky too. I think we got a little luck because we all found each other. We all found each other. And once again, I want to recommend Susan for classes. Right now, there are the Ascension classes. I'm taking them with Medium Kim, and they're excellent. And I was listening to James Van Prague the other day. He's starting to do live shows now.
Is
And
it really?
he was talking about how a good psychic medium never stops learning, never stops learning. So, and I think that's excellent advice. You don't get to the top of the mountain. You just keep on climbing. So, once again, I want to recommend that you consider taking classes. Susan's Patreon channel is a learning experience in itself in all kinds of ways. You just get this little surprise message from her. Hi, this is Susan. Pop on by. And I, I love it. It's really great. Um, and also, I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, Susan, the service that you've done to this community and your gifts and your authenticity is highly regarded and highly appreciated. And I hope we can get back together again sometime.
Anytime, absolutely. And I am nothing without you guys. That we're all linked together, you know. We are the community, all of us.
Yeah.
I love this community. I couldn't have
Too.
survived the last 3 years without you guys. I really couldn't have.
So once again, we want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts. And I have to end my shows this way because I do it every time. Please don't forget, you are loved beyond measure. Bye, everybody. Take care. And thank you, Susan.
Take care, everybody.